Today we are going to attempt turning this quilt into a quilt romper situation. So it's gonna be shorts. This quilt was thrifted today. It is a Nautica quilt, if that means anything to you. And the middle part is pretty faded, so we're trying to avoid it. It has some like wear and tear, and so we're just going to try to avoid this whole middle section. But the quilt is quite massive, so we should have plenty of fabric to make me and my sister matching rompers. So in theory, this will be easy. Who knows? We'll try it. What you're gonna do is take your favorite shorts pattern. You have to pay attention to what way the quilt design is going, because you just want to be conscious of how it's going to lay when it's actually a full article of clothing. So we drew up some designs here. This is vaguely what our romper is going to look like, and we were testing some different designs. I think we're going to go with this one, so the colors will be going diagonally down. So I'm going to lay out the shorts here. Now what you want to do for this, since we're turning it into a romper, instead of making multiple pieces, I just want to extend this shorts piece up to make the bib part. So what I'm gonna do is measure. The shorts, I've made these shorts before as just shorts from this pattern. So I know that they're like a high-rise short. So I'm gonna measure from the top of the shorts to where I want the bib to end up. And I think I'll do like 11 inches, and then accounting for seam, I'm gonna add, say 12 inches. So I'm gonna add 12 inches on. This is totally up to debate. You can decide how much you wanna add on. When I'm cutting out the pieces, I'm just gonna do a vague box shape, and I'll cut more detailed later. So let's cut. I've got it all pinned up, so now I'm gonna cut it. When I'm cutting it, like I said, I cut it out the pattern just like normal, but then to make the bib part, I'm just going to extend the pattern up here about 12, 13 inches and worry about the shaping later. For now, just cut it like a rectangle. Okay, we gotta cut 2 of each. So I took this first one that we cut and just laid it down in the other corner. And I'm using this piece that I already cut so that I can line up the patterns so that everything will line up when I sew it together. Looks camouflaged. So I cut out some pieces. This is the front piece. So it'll look something kind of like this. It'll have a seam going down the middle, attach on the side, pull the loop. It's gonna look good. All right, we have finished cutting. So when you are done cutting your romper, you should have 4 pieces, 2 front pieces and 2 back pieces. You can tell because of the difference of the crotch. So 2 back pieces have the longer curve and the 2 front pieces have the shorter. So you need 2 of each. And then here we have a lot of extra because we're making 2 rompers. But I cut out a scrap for the bib. Haven't decided the exact shape or size yet, so this is just a vague shape rectangle. Some pockets for back, or if you want external front pockets. If you want internal front pockets, you gotta cut these. I cut this out of a thinner linen material to make internal pockets. And then some extra scraps for the straps to go on. So in total, for one romper, you need 2 front, 2 back, 2 straps, 1 bib pocket, and then whatever additional pockets you want. And now to the sewing part. All right, so we're starting the sewing. This is my sister helper. So what you're gonna do is take a front piece. How do you know that it's a front piece, Gabby?
It has a smaller swoop.
Perfect. Okay, so lay down a front piece and match it right sides together with a back piece.
Larger swoop.
Now what we're gonna do right now is sew this part together. So you're gonna line up these. This is the inside seam of your leg. So we're gonna sew that together to attach these two pieces. You're going to do that for both legs. So lay down both front pieces, both back pieces, and sew those together. So we're just sewing along the inner seam. We're lining it up to the foot just for size purposes. You can do whatever seam your shorts pattern calls for. All right, once you've stitched this together, then you're gonna wanna overlock or like zigzag stitch the edges just to make sure that there's no fraying. So we're gonna do that now. After that, it should look something like this. You have your straight stitching and then your zigzag stitching to cover up the edges. Now we're going to line them up and sew the crotch together. So lay out one and then lay out the other one on top, and it should line up nicely. And then we're going to sew the edges. Right sides together, we have the backs and the fronts. They should be facing together. I pinned it, and I'm just gonna sew starting on this end all the way down and around and up the other end. So once you've sewn your U together, then what you have now is the beginning. You can finally see that it's making a romper. So there's the shorts down here. This is gonna be your front. We'll cut it into shape later. For now, we're gonna do the side seams. I saved these for last because you're gonna wanna put your pockets on. So pockets are totally up to you, customizable. If you are putting external pockets on, then you'll want to cut out the shape that you want and figure out where exactly you're gonna want them on your romper. If you're cutting, or if you're doing internal pockets, then again, figure out where you want to place them, and then you'll sew them onto your shorts. Hopefully you know how to put in pockets. Yeah. All right, so here's the back pocket that we're placing here. To attach it, we have straight stitched around the entire pocket. And now we are zigzag stitching the edges. Since the quilt is such a thick fabric, we didn't want to fold over the pocket. It would make a very bulky seam. So to prevent frayed edges, we're just zigzag stitching, and it still matches the overall kind of like top stitching texture of the quilt. So it fits right in. All right, the pockets are placed. Let's see your pocket. Beautiful. She tried it on, decided where she wants the sides to be cut to. So flip it inside out. Don't worry, I can crop the video. Oh, good. Because you're taking forever.
Oh no.
All right, lay it flat. And now comes the fun part. Cutting, cutting, cutting. Okay, so start with one side. Where did you decide?
It's a great episode. It was a banger.
I'll watch it tomorrow.
Cutting down to there.
Okay, so with your sewing scissors, wherever you decide you want the sides to be cut to, you're just gonna kind of make a swoopy cut. So you'll start there at the needle and just kind of curve in slightly and work your way up to the top. You'll kind of want to straighten out towards the end, but just like swoop in here and then go up. So on the cuts, remember, you can always cut off more later. You can't add it back on. So when in doubt, cut smaller. So this is the cut that we made first. You can use your off cut to make an identical cut on the other side. You just lay the off cut on top and use it like a pattern to cut around. Okay, so here's where we're at. I have finished trimming everything to the shape that I want it to be, allowing for a small hem all the way around, so allowing for a small seam allowance when I turn it under. I have trimmed the bottom to where I want it to be. I think the bottom hem always looks better to me when it's a little bit thicker, so I'm gonna do probably an inch for the bottom hem, so I allowed room for an inch turn up, and then my inseam will be about 7 inches or 5 inches, I can't remember. Just whatever you think looks good for your shorts. And I have cut 2 straps 1.5 inches wide, which allows for a 1/4 inch seam on both sides to give me a 1 inch strap, which will connect the front to the back. Almost done. So whenever you get to a seam part, it gets really thick for your sewing machine, so I recommend going through the thicker spots using the hand crank on the side of the machine. Otherwise, you'll probably break a needle. So to avoid that, just go over the seam with the hand crank, and then once you're past it, you can proceed as usual. Alright, I'm all finished hemming the top, so it looks like this on the right side. Just a little hem going all the way around. Now for the bottom legs, I like the hem to be a little bit thicker, so I'm going to turn it under probably about an inch. I usually do like my thumb pad, which is about 1 inch. And I'll just sew straight line across the edge there. Finished hemming. Moment of truth before I put on the straps. Ah, pretty good. Sneaky little tip for when you're sewing your straps. Since it's gonna be such a tiny hem, the overlocking of the edges first is super important to keep it all together, especially when you're working with a quilt, because there's like 3 different layers to the fabric. You want to overlock or zigzag stitch the edges first so that everything stays together when you fold it over. Another important thing is directional sewing. So when you're working with a piece this small, if you sew like down this side and then up the other side, it's gonna pull the fabric differently and you'll end up with some like wrinkles in there. So make sure that if you go down one side, you also go down the other side. That goes for the zigzag stitching or for the overlocking and for the hemming part. Make sure that you are sewing both sides in the same direction so that it pulls the fabric the same way. I am sewing just the tiniest hem possible on these straps, you can see right there, because I like the strap to be a little bit thicker. Okay, so everything is all hemmed up. We just need to add the front pocket and the straps. So I hemmed the straps. I'm just going to be lining them up here with the edge, sewing it onto the inside of the back. That way it'll be able to loop over, right side facing out to the front. And then I cut out my front pocket. I made my front pocket 8 inches by 7 inches, and then I curved the edges because that's what I did, other side, for my back pocket. And I'm going to attach the front pocket the same way with the stitching around and then the zigzag stitching on the edges. Last thing we have to decide is how we attach the straps to the front. So there's a couple ways that I've thought of. You can choose your own, of course, creative license. Maybe you even think of more. But I think that I'm just gonna make a buttonhole right here and then stick it through and tie it. That's what I'm gonna do. Another option is putting a button here and making the buttonhole on the strap. You can make a couple different buttonholes to choose a side and then button whatever size you want. Yeah, or you get like a clip of some kind. There's a lot of options, but I think for today's case, I'll make the buttonhole here so that I can just loop it through and tie. Alrighty folks, the final try on. So I ended up doing the buttonholes horizontally. I decided that would be best because I'm putting the strap through like this and then tying a knot like this. So, here they are. The back pocket, the front pocket. I'll finish tying this. We'll get a better look at it all. You can hear Gabby still sewing away on her romper. Ta-da! Woo! I can't decide what I do with these. I cut them diagonally. And I kind of like that they're just hanging like this. I might cut them a little bit shorter, but not by much. And there we go. I feel like I'm wrapped up on my grandma's couch. Yay.